Well, g'day and welcome back to another episode of Tomo's Tune-Ups. This is the first episode post Rolleston Classic for 2025. What a adventure it was, clocking over 1,000 kilometers in Grace in 4 days. Had an absolute blast. So this episode, we are going to be pulling the engine out. Now, for those of you who've been following quite closely along on social media or even at the Rolleston Classic would know that I recently rebuilt Grace's engine. It is now an 1118cc engine with an SW10 camshaft and, most importantly, the 3.2 diff. This episode, we are going to be changing the diff back to a 3.4. We'll get into that in a minute, as well as a bunch of other things that need to be done before the next event. So folks, welcome back. Thank you very much for tuning in. Always a pleasure to have you here and really excited to be building Grace. Well, not building it, but at least rebuilding the things that need the attention. So like I said in the intro, we are going to be pulling the engine out of Grace. Now, the reason for that is mainly because of the 3.2 diff. A diff upgrade is a really good choice to be able to gain either more acceleration or more top end speed. In my case, I wanted a bit of top end speed. The reason for that is when I'm doing the long distance between Sydney and Newcastle, it's generally a 2-hour drive on the freeway. Now, she average sits at around sort of 3,700 RPM, maybe about 3,800. It really depends on, what sort of driving you're doing. I really like the 3.2, the fact that it gave me a better top speed, but I really did not like choosing third gear and even second when going up a hill. Now, going up a hill wasn't so much a problem, it was the fact I was losing so much speed. Within a couple of seconds, I would drop anywhere from 10 plus kilometers, if not higher. I'd be straight back to third, revving the ringer out of it and trying to push it up these hills. Now, even though the 3.2 was a really good top speed addition to the car and gave me a better top speed, because I'm not making that much power and I'm probably losing quite a bit, not only by going 40 thou smaller pistons than what I had originally from the 60 thou back to 20, but also the 3.2 diff, it just doesn't work, unfortunately. So I've got a 3.2 diff. If you're interested, get in contact with me and I can sell it to you. So we're going to be pulling it out and we're going to be doing that. Not only that, but we're also going to be fixing a bunch of issues that I've had with it over the years. Now, the issues range from clearly the engine leaking, which any A-series enthusiasts know that they always leak, to fixing globes, to replacing other stuff. So let's just have a quick run through what it is we're going to be doing. So I originally thought on my way home from the Rolleston Classic, what are the things that I need to do to change? So I started making notes, and from what went from a couple of things to, maybe half a dozen, turned into quite a big list. So let's just run through some of them. The left rear indicator doesn't work. The left front park light doesn't work. The number plate globes are too dull. I need to fix the paint on the roof. If you notice at the back there is a giant grey patch. That's because the people who painted it did not do a very good job. We need to rectify the oil leak, swap the diff back to the 3.4. We need to fit the duct for the fresh air intake and the piping to the heater matrix. These are just some of the things. I've got this massive list on my phone and there's probably at least 3 to 4 dozen things that I need to do. Not all of them are going to be big issues, but we're just going to be addressing the main ones today, and that's going to be the diff. I'm going to show you how to pull an engine out of a Classic Mini, and specifically a Classic Mini that is a Clubman. Now, we've done this before. I've shown you how to do it on round noses. They are very similar. A really good feature that we have here in Australia is a removable front grille and the cross member piece. Once you get that out, and you can either choose to lift the bonnet off or not, all you need to do is essentially lift it up, out, and away she comes. Really easy, but I just want to run you guys through how to do it. So let's get straight into it. Let's drain the oil, jack it up, and get this thing out of here. So first thing we're going to do is get ourselves a jack. A jack and a decent set of stands are going to be one of the best investments you're going to make working on either a Classic Mini or any other vehicle or anything else in your shed. Now, I have spoken about this before on a Classic Mini, but let's quickly reiterate. If you're going to be jacking up the front of the vehicle, make sure you do it either under the jacking point on the sill panel or underneath the front of the tie bar. Do not jack up off the bottom of the gearbox. If you're going to be jacking up just the front of the vehicle, make sure you not only apply the handbrake, but you also put something behind the rear wheels to prevent it rolling, such as a brick, a large rock, a piece of timber, anything to stop it moving. If you want to jack up the back of the vehicle as well, I suggest getting the front sorted first and then proceeding to the rear and jacking it up safely. All right, next step I like to do is open up the bonnet, remove the engine oil cap. That way it allows the oil to drain freely and won't create a vacuum and cause it to glug out of the engine. And then next step we're going to do is drain the engine oil. This is a really simple process. I've done a video on it before on how to drain the oil, but let's quickly chat about it. Essentially, all you need to do is locate the drain plug, use either a spanner or a socket to loosen it. Once the sump plug is loose, you then want to get your drain tray, put it underneath, make sure it's a decent size one because they will hold about 4 to 5 litres depending how much oil is in it. Ensure as well that you don't burn yourself because it is going to be hot, especially if you've been driving it. Loosen it off, drain the oil directly into the pan, wait for it to start dripping, put a new sump plug washer on there, refit the sump plug, and then let's move on to the coolant. All right, next thing I like to do is remove the radiator cap. Only ever do this when the engine is cold. Remove it, release it slowly, and then move it off to the side with the engine oil cap. Now, once you've removed it, I then like to use one of my favorite tools, not just the jack, but also this ginormous drain tray. Now, I don't use this to catch all of the coolant. I simply use it because whenever you drain the coolant on a cooling system, especially on a Classic Mini, it generally tends to go everywhere. And if you're like Apprentice Kev who doesn't listen, don't use one of these, drain it straight on the floor and then let me slip over it and break my neck. So in this case, I put the large drain tray underneath and then I put the drain tray as well on top of it. That way, any coolant that comes out, it's going to mainly catch it, but also if there's any excess, it's going to go on the larger drain tin. Now this probably sounds rather silly, but there are a couple of different ways in which you can drain the cooling system on a Classic Mini. If you've got an 850 with a drain plug in the back of the block, you can unscrew it and drain the coolant out of the back. If not, you can remove the bottom radiator hose. That way all the coolant will drain directly at the lowest point. I know it's a couple of different ways, but whichever way suits you is going to be the best. And that's how you drain the cooling system on a Classic Mini without spilling coolant everywhere. Kev, pay attention. G'day folks, Tomo here from Tomo's Tune-Ups. If you haven't already, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button to my channel. Not only will you be kept informed as to when I release new videos, but also it helps to grow my channel, my analytics, and most importantly, recommend videos to yourself and new subscribers. Alright, so Apprentice Kev has just shown up. He's coming around to give us a hand to keep cracking on it. Essentially what we want to do next is remove the front grille. We're going to remove the support piece, the lights, and then work on removing of the oil cooler. Now, as I said, the Australian Clubmans do have a fully removable front end, whereas I believe the UK Clubmans don't. All right, front support's off. We're going to remove the 2 pipes for the oil cooler, and then we're going to remove the oil cooler brackets and remove the entire assembly. While Kev's doing that, I'm going to remove the top and bottom radiator hoses. I generally like to remove it from one end and then leave the other one connected to either the engine or to the radiator. All right, both radiator hoses are off, so top and bottom from the radiator. I'm going to now remove the heater pipe that goes inside the cab, so this top clamp here, undo this one here that goes to the manifold, and then I'm going to remove the steady bar, so the bolt that comes directly through this one just here. All right, next thing is we're going to remove the radiator. It does have 2 bolts that come in from this side and then a bolt on that side, then the entire unit will come up. If you do have a shroud on it, you need to remove the shroud, the engine support that goes between the thermostat housing and the shroud, the bottom shroud, undo all the bolts that hold in, and then remove the entire thing. But I've got this hard mounted to the body. All right, next thing you want to do, depending on what style setup you have, you want to remove the inlet fuel pipes. This one comes directly from the fuel tank and goes to the fuel pump. If it doesn't go to the fuel pump here because you may have an electric one, it'll go directly to the carburetor. You want to remove that pipe next. So I did forget to note as well, you do need to put a fuel line clamp on there to prevent fuel coming out of that outlet. All right, next thing Kev's going to do is start removing all the electrics. So you want to remove the earth strap either at the engine or on the body. The power wires that go directly to the starter solenoid just down in here. Remove the wire from the back of the starter motor. The wires that go directly to the alternator. the 2 coil wires and the coolant temperature sensor wire. Now, it is worthwhile noting as well, if you're unsure where they go, take photos of everything before you remove it. I'm going to start removing the distributor. Make sure you take note of the firing order before you remove it. All right, next job for Kev is to remove the horn, because when the engine comes up, it needs to come forward, up again, and then out. All right, next thing Kev's going to do is remove the slave cylinder from the transfer case housing. He's going to remove the 2 bolts here for the steady bar, as well as this bracket. Take this bolt out from there, remove the spring, and keep the slave cylinder off to the side. All right, while Kev is working on the slave cylinder, I'm going to remove all the cables. You can do this a couple of different ways with the choke and accelerator cable. You can either leave them all connected, remove all the manifold nuts, and then move it off to the side up in here, or you can do a different way where you remove every single cable from every attachment that goes onto the carby, and then remove the entire carby off to the side. Easiest thing I find to do is remove all the manifold nuts and then move it off to the side. That way you can still get enough access to be able to remove the engine and refit it without causing any dramas and not needing new fittings for each of the attachments as well. So next part is going to be removal of the drive shafts. You can do this one of 2 ways. Grace has pot joints on the inside. You can either remove the bottom ball joint and the tie rod end, and then undo the clamp that holds the inner pot joint on, and then pull the shaft out, leaving the pot joint inside the gearbox. Now, the only downside with that is when you pull it out, you do have to fandoogle quite a lot to be able to get it back in, especially when you're either removing the engine or putting it back in. But also, you run the risk of contamination of dirt inside the grease, as well as losing the bearings inside there. The last thing you want to do is be losing your balls. Another option you can do, which is what I've been doing lately, is not only removing the hub nut, which you have to do anyway, but top and bottom ball joints, pulling the entire shaft out, and then reattaching it with just 1 or 2 nuts, either top or bottom, just to hold the stub axle in there. That way it's not resting on the weight of the brake lines with the brake assembly. Now, on a previous video where I replaced these tie bar bushes, it was noted that I put this bolt in upside down. Although I think this is a really good idea, the guy said on my comment that it should be facing the other way. The reason for that is if the nut comes off on top, that bolt comes out, you then lose steering and you're very likely to crash and or die. So I'm going to correct it in this video. I'm going to flip that bolt around, because if the nut's going to come off from underneath, that bolt then has to travel a solid 2 inches vertically before it comes out. Before then, it's likely to hit the boot, and damage the boot, maybe getting stuck inside here and preventing it coming out. All right, and one of the last things we need to do is remove both of the engine mount nuts. So this one here and this one there. What you're best off doing is either getting a ratchet with an extension and holding it here, and then cracking it, but putting a spanner up on the inside here to hold it. Otherwise, you'll find it will just spin. Now, you can buy engine mounts with a nut cert inside it, which is a really handy idea, but if they're not on the perfect angle, you will cross-thread it. So we need to get those out on both sides, and then we're ready to remove the engine. Now, depending on what type of selector you either have rod change, magic wand, or remote. Remote is a little bit easier because there's only 4 bolts. Magic wand is even easier again, whereas the rod change, you do have to remove this rod here, so this quick release coupling, as well as a stabilizer at the top. Now, before we remove the engine, we do have to fit the lifting plate. You can actually do this with the rocker cover left on. This is a reproduction plate. Make sure if you're going to be using this hook that you reinforce it, get an upgraded one welded in there, that way it's not going to move. Make sure as well that you don't have cheap, flimsy Chinese head studs or bolts, that you either use the original ones or use an upgraded one, such as an ARP bolt, to secure it to here. Now, other than having an apprentice beside you, you do need an engine crane. It is ready to come out. The last thing we do need to remove is the speedo cable, which is this one just here. That goes directly down to the gearbox. When it gets to a point where it's high enough, I'll show you how to remove that. So before we remove the engine, we do have to remove the extractors off the back of the exhaust. Now, when you're removing the extractors, just be very careful you don't damage the exhaust gasket. Otherwise you will need to replace it. If you're going to replace it anyway, it doesn't really matter too much, but always just try to be careful. You just have to make sure that when you raise the engine, that it does clear the mechanical fuel pump. Right, now we can keep removing the engine. But the last thing we need to make sure of, as we were saying before, is the speedo cable. Now, the speedo cable is this one just here. It does have a sleeve on the bottom of it. What we need to do is unscrew it. I'll show you in a second. Once you've unscrewed it, it'll then come out. So this one just here, it's just a larger nut. And it does have a square drive in there. That drive does need to be located inside the gearbox. It is pretty easy to do. If you're unsure if you've got it or not, check it at the end where the dash cluster is inside the car and make sure it's engaged. But essentially once it's in, it'll be ready to tighten up. So you always want to make sure that you jack up the engine high enough to make sure that you clear everything, and then you're safe to pull it out. And then you want to make sure that you move the engine over to a safe spot in which you can then lower it down. And that is how you remove an engine from a classic Mini Clubman. So next episode, we are going to go through and do some diagnosis with the oil leak. We're going to change the diff back to the 3.4 and replace any other gaskets that may look a little bit iffy. That's a lot easier to do now while the engine's out. Thanks very much for watching. Apprentice Kev, thanks for being part of it. Let's get cracking on the next one. Catch you on the next episode.